Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Steve Chiama, and I'm the franchise owner for Action Coach here in Fairfax, Virginia. And I'm your host today of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Heather Pressler, the founder and CEO of the BlueHuki Group, as my guest. And today we're going to talk about Heather's business, her journey into business, challenges, best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop a new show like this. So Heather, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here today. And if you would, please give us a little bit of background about who you are and tell us a little bit about your business.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks for having me on the podcast. So my name's Heather Pressler. I am the CEO and founder of BlueHuki, as you introduced so well. And I like to call myself a marketer turned scientist turned back to marketer, because that is actually my background and my path and all that. And I actually do bring that scientific mindset to marketing. So when I describe BlueHuki to other people, we are a leads forward marketing agency, which means we really are focused in on strategies that grow from the internet. So whether that's organic search, bringing more visitors to your website, getting more conversions on your website, ads that convert, we really are focused in on that. And then some of our top people that we work with, medical, legal, home services are our big three categories. Although we work with a lot of different industries, which helps in having a lot of data that we have access to that then drives some of the good results that we're getting from everybody. We get a lot of different ideas from a lot of different places. And then I'm a military spouse, and so we are military spouse owned and operated, woman owned and operated. And a lot of our team, about 70% of our team right now is military spouses as well too. And they've been the secret to our success and growth. In the last 4 years, we've gone from 3 to 21. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we are, where we're finding our success, and where we're going from here.
Awesome, awesome. Let's give the listeners a little bit of context about your business structure first. A lot of businesses talk about coming in with venture capital or partner financing or any number of other ways as opposed to just plain flat bootstrapping. How's your structure?
Yeah, great question. So, I this is actually not my first agency. So I started my first agency with two business partners 10 years ago in July. So I'm excited to be celebrating 10 years as an entrepreneur. When I started with them, we bootstrapped it. We did put some of our own personal funds into starting the business, but we did a lot of that sweat equity to build that first business together.
Hmm.
We had two top salespeople as full time, and so the two of us really hit the ground running to get the business up and running and profitable quickly to pay
Hmm.
ourselves, and then within 6 months we could pay all three of us as business partners to be working full time in that business.
Hmm.
And then from there, I had some differences of opinions as it happens in, business partnerships.
Hmm.
And when we parted ways, we did have a dissolution agreement where they took part of the client list, I took part of the client list. And then we also had some financial exchange there as well too, because the lists weren't exactly even. And then that's where I kicked off with BlueHuki. So some of the clients and some of the funding coming from the previous venture into BlueHuki. During COVID in that previous business, we did take out some loans for the PPP loans and things like that. But basically all of those were forgiven and that sort of thing. So we haven't done a lot of the venture capital or funding yet, although I've talked to some folks in that space over the years, and it's always kind of piqued my curiosity in that
Hmm.
space.
Awesome, awesome. That's an interesting direction to explore. Um, there's good sides of it and there's bad sides of it, and it's an interesting set of topics. So
Yes.
that might be a good topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Um, let's back up a little bit. Blue Hookie, where does that come from?
Yeah, BlueHuki, the name, it took me a very long time to come up with this. So,
Hmm.
because I had a first agency, what I found in that first agency was that people constantly were forgetting our names. I mean, they would be
Mm.
working for us with 5 years, and they
Hmm.
still wouldn't know the exact name of our company because it was just so generic, right? And so when I rebooted with the new agency, I really wanted something that was trademarkable, and I wanted
Hmm.
something that was memorable.
Hmm.
And sometimes because the trademark process forces you in that creativity to keep going because
Hmm.
basically every word in the English language and also misspelled is a marketing agency is what I discovered in this process. And so I really had to dig deep, and I was born and raised in Hawaii, in Honolulu,
Hmm.
Hawaii, and so I went back to some of that. And huki was a word that came up in the original stories where Maui was, who is a god in the Hawaiian belief system, and Maui was trying to show off to his brothers. And he was fishing, and he pulled the Islands out of the ocean and into existence when he went super deep. And that motion's called a huki. If people who have been visiting Hawaii, like huki lau is also the name for the party that you throw after the fishing is done. Huki is also the oar moving the boat forward in the water. So it just had a lot of connotations that was like, okay, you're going from being invisible to visible. It's, an origination story. And if you look at the logo for BlueHuki as well too, it's a fish actually coming out of the water and going up and propelling your business forward.
Very good, very good. So it has to be original.
That's right. And it's trademark now, so it's mine.
Very good, very good. Now, let's talk a little bit about the business. You've had some practice in this. So, in a business, there's always a bunch of different hats that have to be worn. There's obviously the marketing hat, the sales hat, the production hat, the bookkeeping hat, the HR hat. And there's bunches of hats in between each one of those things. Um, I'm assuming when you started, you wore them all. Um,
Oh,
where
yes.
where
Yeah.
are you now? How many hats do you wear now?
So it's interesting because I have delegated a lot of the
Mm,
hats, right? There are a few that I still hold or like it's my
hmm.
responsibility. One of those is finances I'm still responsible for.
Hmm.
Um, the other one is sales that I'm still responsible for. Now I have other people who also do some of those functions and assist with those functions. But those
Hmm.
two are my big hats that I continue to wear. And then we've talked about like, okay, do we need a bigger seat or a bigger fill for like, for example, finances? Do we need a bigger seat or a
Hmm.
bigger fill for internal marketing? Things
Hmm.
like that. So we've discussed over the years when we're going to pull triggers to like make those bigger roles, dedicated roles.
Hmm.
One that we did recently was we have another account manager that we just hired. So we
Hmm.
now have, in theory, three account managers. So
Hmm.
myself, my senior sales and account manager, and then a third account manager. And it's always, as you know, when you pull some of those big roles, you're like, oh boy, here we go.
I was just going to say, do you feel like a part-time everything?
Sometimes, yeah. And
Yeah.
well, and sometimes I feel like a, what do you call it, an SME, like a subject matter
Hmm.
expert. We're like, okay, so
Hmm.
technically that's not my role, but
Hmm.
someone's going to come to me with the hard issue and go, well, what
Hmm.
about this, Heather?
Hmm. Hmm.
Which I'm okay with that. I'm totally
Hmm.
okay with like being the sounding board. I'm
Hmm.
glad to not be, let's say, solely responsible for all of those activities. That would be way too much.
But you've been inside them in the past, so
Absolutely.
you know how they're constructed, and so you can build a framework anyway.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also just know where I want it to be, what I want it to feel, look like, all of that, right? So that if we're building something wrong, we can stop, let's regroup, let's see how we need to build this, right? And
Hmm.
we've certainly had those moments over the years.
I'll bet.
And again, I think a lot of people think that, oh, you've been in business for 10 years, you know exactly what you're doing. And it's like, no, no, oh, no, no, no. We're building the plane as we're flying it, and we're continuing to build the plane as we're flying it. So.
You know, somebody who's been in business 40, 50 years, do they know all there is to know about business?
Well, especially this year, like, in the last two
Oh,
years when AI has probably changed your business pretty quickly, like,
uh-huh.
yeah, no. Mm-mm. Or it's open. I don't know if we want to go down the AI path, but AI has opened up maybe possibilities for small businesses to do things that was never even financially feasible before. And then all of a sudden it's making it easier and more feasible to do it. That doesn't necessarily mean you should do it, but it's changing the game with regards to like your capabilities and the capability of others. So then if others can do something like this, are you potentially going to fall behind if you're not on the edge of that as well?
Yeah. Well, that even brings up, I mean, we're talking in the vein of those businesses that sit at a desk, but I can think of businesses like small restaurants, like fast food restaurants and the kiosks that they're starting to use to cut down their labor costs. Yeah, there's a whole, with that conversation can go a lot of places actually. There's a lot of room for discussion there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, as I said, one of my biggest verticals is medical. I had a conversation with a medical client the other day, and I said, have you noticed that I have an AI note taker on the call, right? Have you thought about AI note taking for some of the note taking in the office, like
Hmm.
obviously in a HIPAA compliant manner? And he goes,
Hmm.
we can do that. And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, definitely the big hospital system that I shall not name down the street is using this right now, has disclosures about it on all of its video calls, on everything. And that, again, this is traditionally an in-person, 100% office-based. And now they finally have something that potentially they could eliminate one person position, but or the other thing we just talked about too is that they've struggled with someone who is fantastic as a medical assistant, but they are not fantastic at note taking. And those are two different skills. And so now it would also allow them to hire somebody who maybe isn't fantastic at notes, but they're fantastic at the in-person part of it that they really
Hmm.
need. So that
Hmm.
that also kind of like just again just opened up their eyes and possibility to,
Yeah.
this could change our hiring process and
Yeah.
make us feel better about the quality of care that we're giving too.
Awesome. That's a fantastic, if you think about it, that we hear people talking about the fear of losing jobs. I think what we really are got to be thinking about is changing, evolving, and redesigning jobs. Um, yeah, I don't know that jobs are going to go away. It just looks to me like they're going to change what they look like.
Yeah, and again, as a business owner, one of my big things, and as a successful agency owner, one of the big things that I'm always looking at is how is our customer experience? What are we doing? Like, how do we make this there less friction in our relationship
Hmm.
with customers and serving
Hmm.
them and all of that? And
Hmm.
so AI is a big possibility, or just technology in general, of how do I make this frictionless? Like, how do I make
Hmm.
this better? And
Hmm.
continuing to kind of iterate that process. And so, yeah, to your point, if AI can make someone on your team serve one of your clients better, your people better, um, perfect, great.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Yeah. Yeah,
let's
exactly.
take that burden off of them so they can do better customer service and better service in
Well,
general, right?
yeah, yeah. Change the design. Break the job up into smaller pieces, and then AI does this piece, and the person does that piece. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I guess in a way, you could say it would open up the door for more billable hours, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I also, if you noticed in my last one when I was saying AI or technology, I think one of the things that this has opened my eyes to is that there are a lot of technologies that are out there that aren't AI based that solve some of these issues, and maybe um, that just again the concept that anything is possible, right? AI has almost opened people's eyes to like anything is possible. Now allows us to really re-examine like, did we
Hmm.
really do our due diligence on like there's a technology that can do that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be AI that's doing it.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Just an automation of some sort. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And, you probably know my background. I went to MIT, scientist by training. One of the things that, though, it's been almost 20 years, next year will be 20 years since I graduated from MIT. And MIT was a big place of like, dream big. Like, think of the wildest, craziest idea that you can imagine in medical, in engineering, in whatever.
Yeah.
That is not impossible. Let's back up and
Hmm.
redo the engineering or the idea behind it, and let's see if we can get there, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's what I loved most about going to MIT was they literally never told you no. There was no one at
Hmm.
MIT that would ever say like that's impossible, you can't do that, don't even try,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
they were like we want you to be have the wildest, craziest ideas and then let's do it. Let's see
Hmm.
how far we can get down that path.
Hmm.
Again, this was 20 years ago and we were trying to recreate human immune systems in my like we were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, right? And
Hmm.
so I think that also is maybe like me being like, like it's okay to go back. Like you don't always have to have someone saying like, hey, you're a small business owner, that's not possible for you to do this.
Hmm.
Or you're an agency owner, that's just not something you should be doing. And certainly,
Hmm.
yeah. But I think you should always dream and see what you can come up with.
Hmm.
And then you have to get maybe a little bit more practical once it's like, well, how do we monetize this? What is this actually worth to somebody, right?
Yeah. What does that do for the concept of we've never done it that way before?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the funny part is, Steve, is that I started my agency on the concept that, and part, backing up to 10 years ago, why did I start an agency? Well, one was I was getting a little tired of corporate America, right? So that was, but
Hmm.
people who've been in corporate America relate to that. That's not really the reason you leave, though, right?
Hmm.
Um, all of my clients at the time were like, your big corporation is telling us all these things we need to be doing from a marketing perspective, but I don't have anyone to execute it. The person I've hired to execute it has ghosted me. They're not responding.
Hmm.
Maybe they're even doing some fairly shady things like holding my domain hostage, things of that nature. We just kept seeing this over and over again. I had about 140 clients that I was responsible for. My business partner had about the same. So between us, we had, nearly 400 people that we were serving, and only one was happy with their marketing team. And their marketing team was out in California. They weren't local, they weren't DC based. And so we really had nobody to refer to other practices to say, hey, this is who you should talk to. They do great stuff. They don't cost an arm and a leg. It makes sense, right? You get a good return on investment. And so that really is why we started our first agency. And our whole mission was number one, to do the customer service aspect better. Like to us, it was like, that's easy. Like, be a reputable
Hmm.
business, respond to people,
Hmm.
like be, you know, responsive to their needs. But then the other part that's harder is getting that return on investment. So like actually something that works, right? That was our second business partner that we brought to the business as well, was
Hmm.
he was doing this for one of the practices in DC, and they were 100% seeing the results. But fast forward 5 or 6 years, I started to see that there were other things that were working, but
Hmm.
through interactions and collaborations with
Hmm.
other agencies. And when I brought this back to the business partnership, it was, we're not going to do that. We don't specialize in it. We're not going to work on. And I was like, I think we're missing out if we're not executing some of these other strategies, right? And so that's also where, when I finally was able to launch BlueHuki, I was like, I'm not going to hold back our team, but I do. Before we launch anything with clients, we are testing it out. We're seeing what results people are getting or what we're getting. We are not just straight up, going to like, hey, Steve, guess what? ChatGPT launched ads yesterday. You should now run ads for your business just because it's ChatGPT, right?
Hmm.
And that's actually what we're doing right now, is we are, for BlueHuki, trying out ChatGPT ads before we launch it to anybody else. And spoiler alert, it's not going so great. But again, I'm not going to launch a new product with our clients without having tested it myself and seeing that it's working. So yeah, that's a little bit about, how like we kind of the mindset that we came into it. It was almost like the anti-agency is where we were going.
Well, let's expand on that a little bit because my next question, and this is really fits right in, is what makes you unique? And this sounds like a uniqueness is in essence a way of pre-testing or at least pre-guessing results.
Oh, so we run the EOS system as
Hmm.
our operating model, and the EOS system
Hmm.
does actually have you write down your five uniques, which we do have. Although the question is, does Heather have them memorized? Um,
Mm.
so our five uniques are, we're woman owned and operated, military spouse owned and operated is one of them. That we do lead forward strategies is another one. That we care about that customer service experience and
Hmm.
interaction,
Hmm.
and that we're cutting edge in what we do, from monitoring data and
Hmm.
re-incorporating that into people's strategies. So those are some of our uniques that make us special. And I think that like the hard part with uniques is that a lot of folks might have similar, like, oh, these are what makes us unique.
Hmm.
And the hard part is that like there's the people who say it, and then there's the people who do it or live it,
Very
right?
much. Yeah.
And so I think that that really is probably our fifth unique, is that we actually do as we say, and not just
Okay.
like, oh, we tell you we're going to do this and then we, walk away and you never hear from us again.
Kind of going down that same vein, continuing down it, if you will, what is one thing you wish more people knew about your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things with BlueHuki that makes us really unique, and I've more recently talked about it, and we just won an award from Inc. magazine as a
Hmm.
top best workplaces. We were
Hmm.
on the rise, and I think one of the reasons that we won that award, it's done based on surveys, anonymous surveys to your team, and then they fill
Hmm.
that out and send it back to them, and then based on your score, you get picked. Um,
Hmm.
and one of the things I created early on was, as you could probably imagine, I worked really hard at MIT. I worked really hard through my career as a scientist, and scientist hours
Hmm.
aren't always great. It's
No.
really like kind of low pay, long hours. But I did it, right? And I had a small child at the time. When I started my first business with those business partners, I was actually a single mother. And so
Hmm.
my priorities had changed, right? Like
Hmm.
the reason I went into sales is I wanted better hours. I wanted, better lifestyle so that me and my son could have a life together. And so when I started my own business, that's what I wanted for my business too.
Hmm.
Um, and I discovered fairly quickly when we started to grow that um, military spouses were the best kept secret in hiring that I had ever found. And what I mean by that is like they are always on point, they're on their deadlines, they respond quickly, they can manage themselves and especially in a remote working environment
Hmm.
flawlessly. And
Very good.
so when I spun off from my business partners and created BlueHuki, I intentionally created a company and a workplace and a structure that would allow what's called flex working. And so the
Hmm.
flex work environment is essentially like most people don't work full time for me. They work the
Hmm.
hours that they would like to work, which generally is about 30 hours or so a week,
Hmm.
which allows them to have the time with their families. Or
Hmm.
when we have people who are PCSing and moving, that might mean 2 full weeks where they are fully focused on getting their family from point A to point B. And then they come back online or fully engaged and going again. And so I think that's something that's really unique but I think there's this maybe stigma about flex remote working environments that like, oh, well, people are not on point, they don't respond to you, and this, that, and the other. And I don't think that that's true at all. And in fact, I think that the way we've structured things at BlueHuki is a lot of the success that we've had with customers. Our
Hmm.
team is very dedicated to the different customers that they are assigned to. They are very passionate about their work. I think they get personally offended when it's like, oh no, I did something wrong, or like the client's not happy. Like, and then they're loyal. I've had one person with me for 9+ years at this point.
Hmm.
She's still with me through like three PCSs, four kids, like, and and again, that is someone who has been with us for forever, who has a ton of institutional knowledge about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and ultimately is very invested in continuing to support our clients and us as a company. And that makes my job so much easier because if I had 21 people that were turning over every week,
Hmm.
whoo, Steve, you could know that would be a lot rougher as a company
Yeah.
for sure. And our customer service would suffer.
I'm guessing here. I think I would guess that a lot of your work really comes into project kind of activities. Is that true?
A little bit, yeah. So we have ongoing, marketing agreements where we're
Hmm.
responsible for a certain set of deliverables. And so those are a little bit easier from a remote working perspective because you're producing X number of
Yeah,
social
that's what I was
posts, et
reacting
cetera.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can jump in and jump out on a relatively straightforward process.
Yeah, but I will say that we've learned over the years that there are things that make this better. Like even
Hmm.
though it can be like set it and forget it, right? There are especially like having team meetings with all of the stuff that's going on with AI and changes that are happening, having
Hmm.
team meetings, updates, having individual team members working on learning some of the new things that are coming out, having me
Hmm.
also have my eyes on it because things do change, we do need to make sure that we do have at least one connection a week where everybody is learning something new. We do
Hmm.
have updates over email as well too. And then having standards like how do you transition from A to B?
Hmm.
We recently like revamped kind of our onboarding process where there's a little bit of onboarding, a little bit of training, and then
Hmm.
mentorship so that
Hmm.
new people have the support they need to really feel like they're meeting team members, but then also like they understand what they're doing and like they get their questions answered. And so
Good.
even though it's like, yes, some of it seems like, oh, you can do that, set it and forget it. My goal has always been like, what is best for our team? So like, what makes them feel connected? What makes them feel like they
Hmm.
understand and have the tools they need to be successful on the team? And then also, again, that there's all of the client needs are being met appropriately as well, too.
Good. Yeah, that's all of that's important. It isn't just, you're right. It isn't just set it and forget it. There's maintenance that's got to be done here, and there's maintenance that's got to be done there on both sides of the equation. Very good. Um, Kind of changing gears here. You've had a journey. You've seen a lot of things. What's been a memorable hurdle that you've had to work your way through?
Oof. Well, I think the one I'm most proud of is hire finally getting to the point of hiring a leadership team and making
Hmm.
that leap of faith. Because as you could probably
Good.
imagine, leadership team, so people who are really like bigger thinkers, they're going to be responsible for larger things that I'm doing that I was once doing by myself. Um, that was a huge leap of faith I made about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
And if you think about it, that's, I would have been, so I lost my business partners 4 years ago, right? So that was
Hmm.
could have been my leadership team in the previous
Hmm.
company. And then 2 years after rebooting, I'm like, or a year after rebooting, I think it was, I'm like, okay, I've got to look at this again. I need a leadership
Hmm.
team, a sounding board. I shouldn't be doing this by myself. And
Hmm.
not only was I proud of the first two hires that I hired for that leadership, and they were really fairly like one of them was fairly part-time, one of them was full-time.
Hmm.
Um, but they weren't quite the right fit in terms of
Hmm.
like they came from the marketing world, they came from another agency or a bigger agency and they knew what was going on. But they were perfect for what I needed at the time to at least
Hmm.
show me that like this is what I really need. And then
Hmm.
when those two positions turned over, which ironically was they turned over fairly quickly at the same time, I replaced them with two people who both had deep industry experience, which I was a little wary of. I was wary of
Hmm.
because I was like, I don't want people to come with maybe bad habits, right? Like
Hmm.
if I don't trust how some of these agencies are operating,
Hmm.
how do I trust the people that are coming over from these
Hmm.
agencies, right? I don't want that. But I got two fantastic hires, Jen and Sarah, and it is so funny because when we do some of these EOS planning meetings and things like that, we are almost 100% in lockstep in how we
Hmm.
think and what we're thinking and what we think is good for the business. That's
Hmm.
not to say we don't disagree. We do, and I think that that's a good thing when we disagree.
Hmm.
But it's funny that our EOS implementer, who works with a lot of other businesses as well too, he's like, I always love working with you guys. Like the energy you have, the camaraderie you have, the like all of what you're bringing to the table. And I think that
Hmm.
that further reinforces that that was the best risk to take, leap to make. And so I'm so glad that I did that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Kind of pivoting from that, what do you say the future looks like? Look out 5 or 10 years. What do you where is the business going?
We are looking into like obviously we're expanding.
Hmm.
So we're looking into hiring some additional key roles probably in the next five
Hmm.
to 10 years for sure.
Hmm.
Just today we had a discussion about like potentially having a CFO,
Hmm.
potentially having a head of sales. And those are bigger like goals for
Hmm.
us to get to.
Hmm.
And I think the idea is to continue to scale, to continue to offer high quality
Good.
services that we're offering to a larger base of clients. But making sure that we're doing that in a way that like customer service isn't being injured in that process. Our process flows are being adjusted to match that new team that we might be having, and that our hiring is still on point as well too. Because I think anytime that you're expanding, the previous system that you had might not be appropriate for where you're going,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then, again, if you all of a sudden hire five new people that don't fit your values or your team,
Yeah,
whoo, you
yeah,
just, like a 25% of the team is off, is off kilter and you have to start
yeah,
over again.
yeah.
Um, so I think I'm kind of someone that if you were to ask me personally, like, are you risk averse? Do you like taking risks? I don't know that I'm a risk-taking person. In fact,
Hmm.
I had a snowboarding coach when I was 14 say to me, he's like, "This is not at all meant to offend you." He's like, "But I think you're too smart for snowboarding. Like your fear of dying on the hill is basically what holds you back from being a phenomenal snowboarder." And I was like,
Hmm.
no doubt he was right about that. And so I've always been that person that like I will do things like snowboarding or jumping
Hmm.
off of cliffs in Puerto Rico, true story.
Hmm.
But I do it with the safest guide or the safest person that I'm going. Like I picked my guide very specifically for that, the one that
Hmm.
talks about safety and cares about safety.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm kind of that person that like I will absolutely take the risk, but I'm going to
Hmm.
take the best calculated risk to not
Hmm.
kill the company, to not kill
Hmm.
myself, like all of that. And I think that, ultimately, now that I have 21 people that work for me, my responsibility is not only to myself, but to them, right? I am
Hmm.
responsible for them continuing to have a job and to go forward. And so, I
Hmm.
have to be a good steward when it comes to
Hmm.
making like the next choices and decisions. But I
Hmm.
do love the person that goes, "It's time, Heather, you should do this." And says, "Okay, let's push you off the ledge a little bit."
With that in mind, and that's probably a good starting point, what do you see as the biggest challenges to pull that off?
Oh, uh, sales is one of them. So
Hmm.
I have traditionally held the sales seat at the company, although Sarah does sales as well too. I will say I'm very picky about
Hmm.
sales
Hmm.
strategies, sales approaches. So I'm
Hmm.
very fortunate that Sarah and I have a very similar sales strategy and approach. Um, and so I do foresee that that might be a little bit hard because
Hmm.
I don't like the, kitschy sales tactics or the cheap sales tactics. But I've never necessarily built a sales team myself. So in all the roles
Hmm.
that I was in, I was where I maxed out in sales is I was a sales trainer. I was never
Hmm.
a manager of salespeople. And
Hmm.
so I don't necessarily know much about how to build a sales team,
Hmm.
and find the right sales talent. Although, again,
Hmm.
Steve, what haven't I done in this business? So why not try that as well too? But I think so that's one that is a little intimidating to grow. So sales is one of them, and then continuing to build out some of our account management things that we're doing, and then our systems. Because I know once we start to really have things completely disconnected from me, that protocol in place has to be absolutely clear. And we have had
Hmm.
instances that it's like that wasn't clear, and
Hmm.
oops, now we have to go back and build it again and do
Yep.
it the right way.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Cool. 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 Um, we're going to use that as a place for this next question. If let's pretend you were going to start that business over again today, knowing what you know now after you've learned all these lessons, is there anything big that you would do differently? Would you approach it differently?
wow, that's a great question. I think, you know, one of the things that I brought on that I think really did transform the way we were doing business was the EOS system. I
Hmm.
encountered the EOS system probably in the second or the third year in business, maybe the second year in business. And I really liked some of the principles of it, how
Hmm.
to implement it, all of that. And I did really feel like that uh, got me unstuck. Not, I've had consistent growth in the last 4 years, but I
Hmm.
think it got me unstuck from being able to actually scale. And
Hmm.
so I think that had been very helpful. I also, in that process, got a mentor, right? And so that
Hmm.
mentor is Tom Malasik, and he
Hmm.
has been an agency owner and operator for 25 years. So he's
Hmm.
double the length that I have been. And so having his insight into like what challenges did they encounter, how have they handled it? That doesn't mean how that's how we're going to handle it, but having
Hmm.
his insight has been really helpful.
Hmm.
I think having more mentors is something I thought about recently. Um,
Hmm.
that I don't think that you can have too few people that you
Hmm.
really like bounce ideas off of, are supportive of each other. And I've been in a couple of these mastermind groups where it's other business owners and things like that. But recently someone else kind of flagged that it's time to have another mentor. And
Hmm.
so I think maybe going back, having a little bit more support for myself, I think
Hmm.
would have been good earlier on, right? Like more
Hmm.
mentors,
Hmm.
people that are guiding me.
That's fantastic. This is fantastic. Yeah. In the interest of time, I think I want to start wrapping up so that we don't spend all day because we've had an awful lot of very interesting points here. So I want to get into a couple of rapid fire questions and see if we're going to have a little bit of fun for those.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. What would you say is your key to success?
My people, my military
Hmm.
spouses, and everyone else on the team that fits our values.
Very good. Let's pretend you and I were at a networking event, just sitting there chatting, and somebody else walked over who's just opening up a business. What's one piece of advice you would share with that person?
Ooh, I would make sure that you have a budget for marketing early on.
Mm,
I
good.
think a lot of people start a business and don't have a budget for marketing. That's a
It's
big
kind of the
one.
priming the pump, if you, in a way to think about it. That's yeah, good.
Absolutely.
What is one book you're reading now or read recently that's having impact on how you drive forward?
Ooh, I'm blanking on the name of the book, but I was reading one recently that was talking about branding and like your
Mm-hmm.
brand story. And
Mm-hmm.
that one was, it was really great for me to reflect on we did make some branding updates and changes to our website recently.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really helpful because, believe it or not, we are what I would call like an execution agency. You come to me with your brand. Now we can do logo design, right? Typically you're coming to me with your brand and we're running with it. And so
Uh-huh.
branding is something that I've found very helpful in even
Mm-hmm.
us, like, again, doing our own marketing well.
Mm-hmm. Is the book title? There's a book that comes to my mind that follows that description, kind of building a story brand.
Oh, yes. Yep. And then they also have a website too. So I was exploring their
Mm-hmm.
story brand website as well. I wasn't such a huge fan of some of the AI stuff that they had on there. I didn't think it was that great. But the
I haven't looked
concept I
at
love. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't looked at their website in a long, long time, but that book was a good book. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. You've had a great journey. You've learned a lot, you've explored a lot, you've tried a lot. What would you say you're most proud of in this journey?
Oof. I mean I think and part of the reason I wanted to start BlueHuki was I wanted something more. And so
Mm-hmm.
because you can be a business owner and it's about revenue as your success. And I really did not want revenue or profit to be defining success with BlueHuki.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather it be the businesses that we grow, that we help along the way, the team
Mm-hmm.
members that we
Mm-hmm.
are giving purpose and meaning to.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the other work that we do. So there's a lot of advocacy work that I'm involved in recently. We give back to charity. So charities that our clients care about, charities that our team members care about, every year we're donating to them. So I think that bigger picture of having a community, having people, and in that community, that's our clients, that's our team members, that's the people I network with, that I pass business to. I feel like that the human element of what makes BlueHuki a human-driven company is so
Mm-hmm.
much more than the numbers, the dollars, the
Okay.
growth, right? So for me, growth is being able to hire another team member, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
the rewarding part of it, right? Or helping
Ah,
five
okay.
more businesses. It's not the, okay, here's the dollars that are coming in.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what I really find purpose and meaning in.
Awesome. Following up, but flipping the question around to the other side, if you had a magic wand and there was one thing in your business you could fix this afternoon, what would it be?
Well, I'm working on a new audit format for my sales process to be able to boil down a ton of information about a business
Mm-hmm.
and their
Mm-hmm.
competitors really quickly and
Mm-hmm.
easily and accurately. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if I could have a magic wand to fix that, to just like, this is what Heather's mind wants it to do, and then it just is done,
Yeah.
perfect. But I actually have to
Very.
put that on paper and in writing to get
Oh,
that.
detailed.
Small details.
Going back to scientist.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Most important question. How can people who want to know more get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So go to www.bluehuki.com. On our
Mm-hmm.
website, if you click the contact us or the get an audit, that goes to a calendar where you can book a quick connect with us. It's a 30-minute connect. So very quick. You can talk to us about anything from we're networking and meeting you to, you have something in your business that you need help with to we could potentially partner together. Again, it does not have to be a sales call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great way to just get the conversation started.
Fantastic. Last question. What's most inspiring to you today?
Oh, um, I think last night actually I went to a dinner for the Inc. 5000, which is the top 5,000 companies in the US. I am not on the Inc. 5000 list. I'm working on it though. I got invited because I got on the best workplaces list,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some incredible people there that I was like, how am I, first of all, even in a room with these folks? But I think
Mm-hmm.
what hit best for me is it wasn't just, like I don't know what you imagine the members of the Inc. 5000 list, and these were some people who have been on the list for 5, 10, very long periods of time, right? But they were similarly minded as myself. right? It wasn't about
Hmm.
the dollars and cents. The things we were talking about from a business perspective was our people, how we take
Hmm.
care of our people, what we care about. And that was the theme of the dinner was actually like like people, human resources, retention, all
Hmm.
of that, right? And it felt very validating to be in a
Hmm.
room with people who have built very big businesses and to know
Hmm.
that those very big businesses they are caring about those aspects of their business.
Hmm.
And really, that's all we talked about. We did not talk about dollars and cents. We did not talk about customer acquisition. We only were talking about our people. And I thought that that was really inspiring.
Awesome. Very good. This has been great. This has been a great conversation. You've raised some really important points about people. And this game has to include the people because that's what business really is. And then that's true on the customer side, and it's true on how do we serve the customers effectively is with people. So this is very good. For everybody watching, I encourage you to go back and listen to what Heather's had to say because there's been some really interesting points and important points about this. So thank you, Heather, so much for sharing your story, giving us some of these great insights, and just I appreciate the story that you've shared and being vulnerable.
Thank you, Steve, for the time and the interview.